Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations for champions with champions, where a champion life is a 10 life. Thank you for joining our team today. I'm Carlette Patterson, your head sports life coach at the Life Training Academy, and it's our desired outcome to share our passion for sports life coaching by training you to live a 10 life. You and your life matter. Let's get coached. Hi team, today Jane is our guest and she is one of our own sports life coaches, and she is launching a new program that she's very excited to share, and it's a training program for life, and it's all about transitioning from divorce or a breakup or something that isn't so fabulous into transitioning into really being your best self, being who you want to be, going for what you want to be. And all of us go through times of change and transition, and Jane's story is beautiful. And that's really how Jane and I met. Is I had the honor of being able to be her coach as she was going through transitioning from really being who she was in a particular season to transitioning into who she wanted to be in a new season. And sometimes we choose our transitional times of change and sometimes we don't, but we all go through it. We all have those transformational changes that happened. And today's desired outcome on 10 Talks is to really share this journey with you, to introduce you to Jane and the amazing training program that she has, and let you know who she is as a coach. And most of all, give you hope. We want to give you hope that whatever it is you're going through, we as a team are here to support you, to coach you up, to train you to really transition and do anything that you want. So Jane, welcome to 10 Talks, and we look forward to hearing your story. We love to start with just the power of gratitude, and I want to introduce to the team really how we got connected, which was through a friend that I was coaching, and they introduced me to you, and you were headed out to Italy in just a day or two, and we connected super quick on the phone. And the reason that that connectivity is important is I want to thank Kevin, who introduced me to you, and to, just the ability to be able to honor. Rich is another guy that I think connected me to Kevin. I mean, it's just, it's a fun circle that happens. And team, I want you to hear it's all about the power of relationships. Our brand is about relationships. We care about our people. We want to be connected to our people. And we're so grateful for the people that we get a coach, and then they recommend that we coach with, somebody else. And all of a sudden a brand is built based on just that word of mouth of saying, hey, I think this person could help you. So thank you, Rich. He's the one that introduced us, and he has just been such a champion in our life in terms of being able to connect us. Thank you, Kevin. And so Jane, here we go. Let's talk about your story.
Yeah, what I love about my meeting with Rich was I've known him for quite some time. And so he's not, it's a relationship I had. And when I saw him that particular day, I said to him out loud, something about you is different. What is it? And I thought he was going to eventually say, oh, I got a haircut. It's that typical, I lost 5 pounds. And he's like, nope, nothing's different. And I'm like, there's something different. And over the course of our conversation, he said, oh, well, you know what? I've been seeing a life coach lately. And he started to share with me some of the strategies that he had been implementing into place. And just his whole demeanor and his whole attitude was very different. And so I thought that was really fun, because I think it speaks a lot to the experience. Sometimes we're going through changes and we don't even know ourselves. We're not really aware of it, and someone else points it out. And so in that moment, he knew that I was going through a divorce, and he also knew that I had recently quit my job. And he's like, she also works with people in transition, and I think you might really, really benefit from talking to her. So I'm somewhat impulsive when it comes to those emotional things for myself, and I left the parking lot, and I think I picked up the phone right away. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And I happened to be leaving for Italy. And so I remember 2 things very distinctively about that conversation. That, first of all, the fact that you gave me some tools right away that I could take and immediately start to change my thinking. And that was around our STAT tool. And you introduced it to me just as you always do, in terms of, finding that 10 moment that you can sort of anchor in that feeling. And then I remember asking you, okay, so how does that work in Italy? Like, I don't get it. And you were like, what it means is everything you do and pack needs to be a 10.
Yeah.
So everything in your suitcase, is it a 10? And I'm like, ooh, I got to go back and revisit that. And then being really intentional, I have some very specific moments when I was in Italy where I'm like, okay, how can I make this a 10 moment? And just constantly asking myself, like, how can I make this moment better? And I remember once I was going to a vineyard in Italy, and how does it get any better than that? Really? Like, okay, it was already a 10 moment. But by asking myself the question, I was very intentional about the outfit I chose. I put on a special playlist for the train ride. Like, it just changed my whole, I literally could feel my being be more elevated, even though I was already doing something really fun, but the intention behind making it a 10 moment just made me so aware all of the time. And I can honestly say that entire day was like a 10 because I was thinking about it. But then the other thing that you shared with me before I left that was really, really powerful for me, using the language of sports and talking about how athletes are injured and how I, was injured. And could I give myself kind of that grace and compassion to know that I needed time to heal the injury? And again, not really thinking about what I was going through in my life as injuries. And I would discover so much more around that later, but really feeling in the moment like I need to be back on my game in every way. And you really helped me to honor what I was going through was a process, and that it wasn't going to be, all fixed and all better and all healed overnight, and that it would take time. And more importantly, give myself the time through coaching, through whatever it was that I needed to heal the injury properly so that I could get back into the game of life. And so those were two really powerful things.
Well, and Jane, what I really love about just this conversation as we begin to hear your story is that really the coaching empowered you to take control of your life. So even though Italy was a total 10, and certainly getting ready to go to a vineyard is absolutely a 10, you being able to say, well, how do I want to take control of this and really elevate it and make all the details count? I mean, so many times in life, we just go to the destination and we're just checking that off. And, it's this consumption kind of way of living rather than this, really purposeful, intentional. Details matter. The people that I'm around matters. Like, it's just so rich to start to think in ways of how do I really have the ability and the education to be able to say, number one, what's my awareness, which we would say, what's my stat on a scale of 1 to 10, you bringing yourself present into you, like getting you to remember you matter, like you and your life matter. I know I'm a mom, you're a mom. So many times as, playing the many roles that we do, we can forget to leave us out of the game. And that's something that you and I are passionate about. We're going to talk about really getting all of us in the game, in our very best game. And so that's a really powerful tool that our team can take, today and be able to start implementing is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being fabulous. What's a 10 moment for me? And being able to define what 10 is, and then every single thing that I'm investing in, time, energy, emotion, money, anything. Is it a 10? And if it's a 7, how do I raise it to an 8? If it's an 8, just constantly challenging myself to, number one, get to know me. And number 2, really start to claim what matters to me. And then my favorite is thinking that that's going to matter to me and me going, wrong answer. That was so not a 10. So, let's just talk about your journey through discovering 10s, thinking it was going to be a 10, changing your mind. I mean, that's the joy of transition. is
I've
that
done
it
it
is just
all.
constantly changing, right? I mean,
Right.
it's an evolution of great discovery and passion. And that's actually one of my favorites. I have been, working with professional athletes who transition and executives and anybody really, we all go through a lot. And I love the surprise. I call it like a treasure of thinking that you want it to be one way and then just opening yourself up to be like, well, what if I did something different? So tell us some of those pivotal moments or really those tipping points for you where it really changed.
Well, I've had so many,
Mm,
and what I love about the 10 moment is when you first hear the tool, when you first kind of experience it, it's broad, and you think of those hallmark moments, those
mm,
big things like the trip to Italy, but it is getting into those details that is really kind of the fun,
yeah.
and really being intentional that I can go for a 10 life every single day. And, as a mom, as somebody who was married for 29 years and being in that partnership, thinking for myself
Mm,
maybe was a little bit more challenging, or really just kind of honoring like what mattered to me,
mhm.
because everything that my kids did or my family did was what mattered to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always what mattered to me. And recognizing that the me is in there,
Mm,
um, was, first of all, that was tough to do, and sometimes felt really selfish. But more importantly, I didn't really have a great skill around it.
mm,
So beginning to practice that, and I remember you and I doing some work around like, what does your ideal day look like? And I'm like, that's not possible. Like, that's
mhm.
not real. And that was some of the beginning and some of the pivotal moments that you challenged me to go, why not?
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably where I've had the most um, discovery. Number
Mm.
one, being 53 and continually discovering, like, that's been amazing to me. Is that, wow, like, you could be 53 and you're still evolving, you're still learning new strengths about yourself or discovering new things about yourself that you hadn't really thought about before. So really becoming that curious
Mhm.
Jane, and being okay with that, and being able to enjoy the journey through the process
Mm.
of transition, which can be really challenging and really difficult. But every bit of it has been worth it. Every single bit
Mm.
of it has been worth it.
Well, because you are so worth it, right? Every one of us, our lives are so valuable and so important. And that's the passion we share in coaching is just every person. How can we be on your support team to just bring out the best in you and really help you discover the life that you've always wanted to live and not in a kind of superficial Pollyannish way. It's like we're about training.
Yeah.
And our model is a sports model. That's the background that I come from. And so I introduced that to you. I introduced you to training for the life that you love, being intentional and disciplined and really, going through the aches and pains of pushing yourself into being uncomfortable and stretching yourself and honoring a process. I mean, I think that's one thing that's very important that athletes, when they sign up with a coach, they know that they're going to have to trust a process that is unknown to them. I mean, they haven't ever been with that coach. They
Yeah.
don't know what's happening. So, that is one of why it's such an honor for us to be a coach is that we know people are trusting us with that process. So you and I started our coaching. You started really trusting you and starting to get to know you. I want to talk about a bit of that before we dive into your professional career. So a team, again, we talk in 3D, personally, professionally, and philanthropically. So with Jane, we're going to talk personal right now. Certainly, as you were going through that, another coaching tool that you brought up is me talking about you being injured. And certainly we go through life and we have emotional injuries. So many times if we have a physical injury, it's very easy to see if I break my leg or my arm and like you're there to help me. If you see that I have a cast on, you'll be right there to say, hey, how can I help, Carlette? Let me carry this for you. And I don't feel weak or shameful or anything like that. In fact, I feel really grateful. It's like, thank you for helping with change or emotional injuries or even mental health issues, you know, it's not visible. You can't see the pain that's going on inside my heart, inside my brain. And it's deafening. I mean, it's just, it's awful. And that's really what we're so passionate about in coaching, is honoring that internal voice and heart and machine that's happening, so this external machine can be, you know, a 10. So let's talk about grief,
Yes.
because that is one of our tools that so many people, usually when we say the word grief, we would think about the loss of a spouse or, you know, a parent or a dog, you know, an animal, anything that is more kind of a human loss or a big loss. We actually talk about grief constantly in coaching, and it does have to do with loss. It can be loss of a dream, loss of a season. Certainly being an empty nester is loss of a season. And starting to really respect, honor, and work through grief so that we discover the gifts. So let's talk about your journey through grief.
Well, I think first and foremost, like one of the things that is so was so profound for me when I came to you is really the fact that, number one, you did support me, and I never felt judged, because we already come with so much of whatever junk we're holding on to, whether it's judgment, guilt, blame, shame, whatever it is. And to have you really, really honor all aspects of me without judgment, first of all, created that safe space for me to be in, but also to realize, you know, how much we don't do that for one another, that our society is, you know, filled with a lot of judgment and shame. And so when you introduced that grief tool to me, it literally changed my life. I mean, instantly in that moment, because I had been carrying such a heavy weight that, number one, I didn't really even realize like how heavy. And you introduced that grief tool, and I immediately was like, oh, I'm in grief here for this. I'm in grief here for this. I'm in grief here for this.
Yes.
And then I realized I had layers of things that were happening in my life that were causing me grief. And so first it started out big, you know, and immediately I felt a sense of peace, because now I'm like, okay, I get why I'm feeling these things here. And I can put my situation with my son, you know, who I was going through some challenging times with, put it there.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, and maybe you can explain it, but little by little, the weight, I could literally feel the weight lifted. It didn't mean anything was solved. It didn't mean anything was resolved. It didn't mean anything was different, other than I felt like I had a place to start with each one of the layers that was going on in my life. And I could see where I was in the grief process, and now start to make a plan, plucking away at each one, knowing that I'm injured differently.
Yeah.
Also, you know, I think I said to you at one point, I think I'm in a body cast. I don't think I have just a broken arm. I'm like in a full body cast. But, you know, it sounds really heavy. And I was going to say something to you about the word training, because I've been training. And I think sometimes the word training or commitment can sound really heavy. And yet training can be joyful. It can be so much fun. Watching the results is amazing. Seeing how far you've come is even more amazing. And just watching that continual growth that happens. So I've been training, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Even when it's been hard, when it's been challenging, when I've wanted to give up, but also when I've been able to celebrate and experience the joy. And so grief is a tool that I can say is amazing and awesome and wonderful, and we are in it every day.
And Jane, when you say, you know, you don't know exactly what was happening when it got a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter, I would call that healing. So, you know, that's what's beautiful about the training that you committed to, is that you committed to train to be your best self. And so you were able to come into the training. It's like a boot camp, right? I mean, all of a sudden you emotionally feel sore. You feel like, wow, this is heavy. This is a lot. And then as you begin to heal, it just feels amazing. I mean, that's my favorite part of the work that we get to do, is that from a sports analogy, it's like, it is hard when you start something new. I mean, there's an excitement to it, and you want to be on the team, and you want playing time. And, you know, we have all these ideas of what we want. And then the reality of what it takes to really achieve what we want sets in. And that can be heavy and it can be hard. And yet having a coach that loves you, cares about you, is there to support you, all of a sudden that relationship is what strengthens you. And so many times we think, you know, I'll read a book, or I'll watch some YouTube, or I'll do yes, 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 right? Like training is about get as much training as you can. And I would like to add, having a relationship is a really important component to that training factor. I mean, I don't know any athletes that read a book and meet us at a championship, right? I mean, they actually show up every day with their coach, with their teammates, and they go into their gym. We call it the life gym. And you know what? It's messy inside the
Yeah.
gym. You know, it's sweaty, and, you know, it doesn't always work. But boy, when it's game time and we've done the reps and we've done the work and we've done the healing from our injuries, it's this beautiful moment in time that is so special. I mean, that's what we want people to know, is that yes, you can start off and be scared and whatever, you know, yes, we want you scared. We want you being like, I'm going for something really big.
Yeah.
And we got this. Like we're going to do this together.
Well, what I feel so I'm grateful to me
Yes.
for making the investment. Like
Yes.
I can only look back and watch my film now. Number one, I see how far I've come. But I also, there was so much discovery. You know, it was a year later that I was sitting and realized I was grieving also the loss of a title.
Mm.
Being a Mrs., I didn't realize mattered to me. But if I
Mm.
didn't, and that was a quick little grieving thing. That wasn't anything. And we've talked about, you know, you can grieve something in 15 minutes
Yes.
and you allow yourself to really grieve it. And then other things might take a lot longer. But, you know, that process of discovery has not ended. And I can sit here now and go, I'm so much healthier.
Mm.
And that is what I'm most grateful for, is that I know I'm healthier. It doesn't mean that I still don't have triggers.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I still don't have obstacles and challenges that I'm facing every single day, but I've got the tools, and I know I can sit here and go, I'm healthier. Like that is one thing I know so much. And I'm so grateful, because so many people walk around, in my opinion, or what I've observed is, no, why do I need a coach? I got this. I got this. And yes, there's so much we do have, but there's so much opportunity for us to discover where we might need some more skills or some more support around. And I think going through a transition like divorce is, you know, very, very emotional. It doesn't just impact you, it impacts so many people. And I also think that no matter who initiated it or what happens inside your story, everybody grieves and everybody has their own experience of it. And so we all have to have that time to be able to heal. And I was missing a lot of skills and tools that I didn't even know, you know? So again, I am just really grateful that I was like, you know what? I don't know what kind of help I need yet. I just know I need some help, and I want to get some help, and I'm going to take that first step. And then what I've learned and what the journey has been like is I could have never scripted. I could have never scripted the discovery and the tools and the healing that's happened, and just how good I feel in this space today. No, like I still have junk. Like I still
That's called being human.
Yeah, I still have stuff that I'm dealing with, but I'm going for my 10 life, and it feels amazing.
Well, Jane, I second that. I'm so grateful that you knew how valuable you were and you are, and you went for it. And, you know, one of my 10s being able to have the honor of being your coach and now bringing you into our company and really having you become a coach and that journey is just that gift of you really fighting for yourself. And that's a very, very valuable gift, is that, you know, sometimes we hear the word fighting, just like you referenced training, it can feel heavy. And you know, we believe in competitive greatness, and competitive greatness means truth, faith, and love. The truth is I matter. I'm important. I'm a mess right now. I have faith in myself. I have faith in my coach or my team, whoever I'm going to be. And then love, like I'm going to love my life. I'm going to learn to love myself. I'm going to love the process I'm on. And, you know, you have really stepped into that. I know when we started and we talk sports and all these things that our brand is about, and, you know, you were trying to keep up with it. I love football. I love sport. You know, it's so different to have the concept of loving something or being passionate about, and then really starting to train for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize the difference in. They don't understand that, you know, you can be passionate about something, but then to bring the commitment level to say that I'm going to do the work to actually go through this change. And you and I are doing lots of work with people. We're passionate about really helping. And we're here to say that, you know, our stories are part of our credential. I mean, that's where, what you know about us is that we've done our certification and our work, and then we bring in our personal story just from a perspective of you knowing us. We're not going to, you know, make it about us in any way. Every one of us have our own story. And so I just am so excited about the course that we've been able to put together from a transitional perspective, and about divorce and loss and grief. And we want to get people to really know, what does that mean? Like, what will you be doing? What's happening from that perspective? So just share your desired outcome of really coaching people up in this course.
Well, so, you know, I'm so passionate about it, and it constantly showed up for me. And I wasn't ready at the time to like fully embrace it, but it got to a point where, okay, I just can't deny this anymore. Like, this is what matters to me so much. And being able to coach other people in the same exact tools, in the same way that you coached me, and that I have the, you know, the privilege and the honor of coaching other people right now. Number one, it just shows that our tools are our tools and they work. And, you know, that shit works.
Yeah, that's our saying, team. For, you know, once you go through the certification and you start using the tools, you're like, well, like, this shit works. So
this shit works. And so, you know, forgive me, audience, for using that language, but that's oftentimes so much. Sometimes it's harder to explain to people than just go, I'm just telling you, like, trust me, this shit works. But the playbook that we created is really the tools that I believe were super valuable in helping me make my transformations and helping me go through the process. I hope that they're really going to honor that everybody comes with their own unique story, and that there's a tremendous amount of joy in getting coached as well. And I feel like, you know, the whole sports thing was new for me from a training perspective, because I hadn't, you know, played sports. I love sports. I enjoy sports. My kids played sports. But this idea of training in the same way an athlete does, and really going, okay, wait, my life is worth it. Like, my life matters. Why wouldn't I invest in my life? Like, this is my life we're talking about here. And
much more important than the sports game ever. I mean, like, you know, that's what's so amazing. Yeah.
And so, like, why do we think we have to have it all figured out? I actually think I'm super smart because I invested in getting a coach instead of thinking I've got this on my own. You always say I've got you, which I love, because that you're part of my safety net, you're a part of my support. But really just being like, I'm not alone in my journey. And like, why do we need to be? I mean, what am I proving to anybody? I care more about healing I care more about knowing that I can be better in other relationships and more importantly, a future relationship. And I honestly don't believe I would have been there. I think I might have thought I was there, but as I continue to still discover. So what I hope is that number one, anybody who is, coming into the coaching course, that they can experience it in the same way that I did, in terms of it's a safe environment. It is a loving, supportive environment. However, you will get challenged, and that's okay. It's all for a greater good. And, and then moving through that process, acknowledging that number one, it is a process. So it doesn't happen overnight, but to stay with it, to stay engaged, because as we've often talked about, it is training and you've got to practice it. And, the tendency is if you've been doing one thing one way for a really long time, to make any kind of change whatsoever is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And also, I'm introducing the whole energy management component too, which again, we come in very emotional, but we aren't really thinking, at least I wasn't thinking about the impact it had on my energy. And also time management, with rituals and routines around self-care and love. I just simply wouldn't have connected all of that together. And again, I believe all of them are very powerful in helping you to be healthy and well from a whole being perspective. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And Jane, let's talk about the power of team, because that's one thing that we are passionate about as well, is really using a team as a support team and also as a team to learn from. So, I mean, that's what's so just some new thinking. A lot of times people who aren't familiar with working on a team, they feel like they need to talk about this privately, or it needs to be one-on-one. And, my story is really different. And yes, 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 individual coaching is phenomenal. Yes, your story is unique. Yes, we want to be able to have privacy and protect you and let you unpack that on your own. Yes, yes, yes. And yes, what about the really, igniting the power of team and sitting with a team and being able to hear stories, winning strategies, what worked, what didn't work. It's amazing what happens from that perspective. And a lot of times when people haven't had any experience in a team, they feel like it's going to be boring, or it's kind of like, if there's 5 of us, I'm only going to talk and I'm not going to learn anything while the other person is talking. And we're committed from a sport perspective for champion teams. And we really believe in the power of how a team heals and also how a team really elevates and ignites. So you're going to learn so much more, not only individually and doing your own work, but you sitting and getting to hear other people really helps you, first of all, know you're not alone. I mean, that's the beauty. It's like you thought you were the only person in the world feeling that way. And now you're going to get to be able to hear that the things you're afraid of, the things this, you're also going to get to hear, hey, who did you talk to about this? And what resources and what support team did you have? And all of a sudden you're not alone on this journey. You have this team that is so for you. So, in your course, we're definitely having the power of team. We're definitely doing individual workouts. I mean, this is something you're passionate about.
Yeah,
Let's talk about you as a coach in terms of, we talked about me being your coach for, one-on-ones. Then as you were going through it, you really fell in love with just coaching, and you joined our coach certification course. So, you have been through that. That's where you got to experience the power of team. That was your first opportunity to really see, what is it like to do coaching on a team? How's this going to work? Take us through where you were kind of day one, and then who you became by the end of your certification from a team perspective.
Oh, well, I'm not very proud of that actually, because I don't really think I thought myself on a team.
Oh, okay. Well, this is good. That wasn't where I thought we would be going, but thank you for your honesty, and let's just unpack that a bit.
No, because I was in such a me state, like help me, help me, help me. And then I began, there was a couple of things. First of all, really, like you said, being able to share with one another, even though every single person on our team in the certification was in a different stage of life, doing different things. They didn't share my same story. However, being able to extrapolate from them winning strategies, even around if it was emotional management or energy management, I didn't have to share the same story or have the same experience per se to go, ooh, that's a winning strategy around energy management. I could use that right now and begin to implement that. But I think that for me, the real power came from being able to really share who you were and know that there was no judgment, no shame, no blame. And I think that that is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people might feel or experience being on a team, or at least sometimes in that corporate environment, really being our authentic and real selves in that moment is challenging. And so, as we began, so when I first came into it, I think I was very me-centered first and foremost, and I might have been a little bit more protective. And then as time went on and, sharing with one another our stories, and then also realizing how I can be contributing and doing for others and not be so me focused, because that there's power in that too. We know now that through that process, you're actually helping yourself by helping others. And I realized that even though I said I was on teams in my work and in my environment, I wasn't necessarily participating in the same way. And so that's been really profound for me in terms of not only noticing how your actions contribute to other people on your team, but also having a level of accountability, and then how to ignite the power of team has been really important.
Well, and so Jane, a lot there. Thank you for sharing that and just, kind of letting us be a part of your journey with that. I think one thing that's important is that we are not counselors. So as much as we're talking about transformation and change and grief and things that are happening, we're coaches. And our definition of coaching is from today forward. So yes, your story matters. Yes, you may have had an injury. Yes, yes, yes. And the good news is that from today forward, we're going to really be able to coach you up in a way that you begin to recognize your injuries, understand, really claim your truth, know who you are and what's important to you, and start to heal and define what matters to you next. So that's really important as we talk about just finding help, getting help, choosing a coach, whatever it is that's important to you. We believe in the power of team, having a counselor to really do that work, that heavy work on, healing and the things that you want to unpack from your past. That's not us. So when we talk about the power of story and, sharing, it's sharing what you want and what your desires are and the things that you're committed to doing. I mean, that's what we invest in sharing. We're going to train you in tools, which means that we're going to hand you something, a new skill that you can literally go out and practice. The beauty of life is that every day, every moment of every day, we're getting to practice these life reps that we do. And so we're going to hand you a skill. And then as a coach, we're going to be there coaching you up on how to improve this skill, get better at this skill, very personalized. Even though you're on a team, you're still playing your position and you're learning yourself. Then in terms of bringing that team together, we're going to share like, hey, you know what? I love yoga and this is what, really helps me. These are my rituals and routines. And as we hear that positivity and the good things that are happening, it's adding to me figuring out, well, I hadn't thought about pickleball, or I didn't know this. Like, that's really important. So that's what I want the team to hear as they think about, just being able to have you as their coach and sign up for this course and get engaged in it, is that it's from your heart. You have gone through it, your live it to give it model, which is what we believe in. And you have lived through this and you want people to really have what you've had. And another thing from that perspective, what are your words of wisdom? So many times we wish that we would have had what somebody else had, or wish we would have done something different. What are your words of wisdom around transformation and these decisions that we make through divorce and grief and change?
The transformation has been so huge for me. And I think that sometimes I don't even realize until I look back. And I think that, the words of wisdom that I have is there were so many skills that I could sit there and say, I wish I had. But what I love about coaching is that it's from today forward. Yeah. It's really about from today forward. And so I can sit there and say, I wish I had done this, or I wish I, had this. And there's resolution that has to take place there and healing that has to come around there. But then the words of wisdom are, keep moving forward. Take what you've learned and take what your experiences have been and honor those, but now use these skills. And now I look at some of my challenges as an opportunity to practice. Like, oh, I get to practice this skill right now, which might not sound so beautiful in the moment, but that's really what life is about. And I think that no matter what I've learned is that change is always happening. Change is always going to be showing up in our lives. Just when we think it's like going to be smooth, change is going to show up. And so having these tools and having these skills has really, I can see huge differences just in my emotional, self-control, or having these tools that when they were introduced to me, a couple of years ago, got to practice. But now I look at, wow, like I recovered from that a lot faster than I did 2 years ago. Or, wow, that didn't impact me the same way it might have 2 years ago. So I look at it in terms of all my relationships, my communication, whether it's with my children or with my friends. And so for me, the words of wisdom, I guess, would be, number one, enjoy the process and go for your life. Go for the life that you want to create, that you want to design, because you really are worth it. Like, we really are worth it.
Yeah, and we can do it. I mean, that's one of my favorites, is that it's achievable. Like, we can go for this and make this happen. And you are an example of that. You set your mind to, first of all, going through getting coached and then becoming a coach. And now this is your opportunity to really give back something that you are so passionate about. And team, that's what I want you to hear. You have the opportunity to have Jane as your coach, and it is such a 10, and she has done her work. She is continuing to do her work. And she is, she has a beautiful support team around her in terms of making sure that she is set up for success. And that's exactly what we want for you. If you're interested and you're going through transformation right now and you want to coach and you want to join a team, we've got that for you. We've got a workout for you on that. And you can go to lifetrainingacademy.com, and Jane is there as a coach, and her bio is there, and the information on her course is there. Again, that's lifetrainingacademy.com, and Jane is set up and ready to coach you to really live that 10 life. So Jane, thoughts?
Oh, I just, I'm going for it, and I want everyone else to join me in going for it too, because it's amazing. And even when change is hard, it's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah. I wouldn't do anything different.
Yeah, it is so worth it. So team, our lives matter. You and your life matter. Jane, thank you for the investment that you made. You are changing the world because you care about you, and you have the courage to really go for it and become your best self. And what an honor to be on your team and on your journey. And I can't wait for the rest of the world to be able to get coached up by you.
Well, and I have to thank you, Carlette, too, for coaching me up in every way.
To be continued. So team, go out and live that 10 life, be a champion. And I look forward to you getting to get coached by Jane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We'd like to get you coached up, so head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe. And remember, a champion life is a 10 life. You and your life matter. Create a life that you love, give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you, the world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com to start your training and get coached.